Okay guys, today's lesson is on Bohr Rutherford diagrams. And what is a Bohr Rutherford diagram? Well, it's a picture to represent the electron arrangement in atoms. But why would we care how electrons are arranged? Well, think back to what you know about the periodic table. The periodic table is arranged in a particular and certain way by reactivity and the way that those elements react with their surroundings. Electron arrangement tells us a lot about the way elements will react. So, how do you draw a Bohr Rutherford diagram? The first thing you're going to do is you're going to draw a circle which represents the nucleus. And remember, we learned that protons and neutrons are found inside the nucleus. So once you've drawn a circle to represent the nucleus, inside that circle, you're going to write down the number of protons and the number of neutrons that the element has. Remember, the number of protons comes from the atomic number, and the number of neutrons, I can write that down actually. The number of neutrons comes from the atomic number. So the atomic number. And the number of neutrons, remember you have to do that subtraction, which is the mass, subtract the number. Okay? So once you've done that, you're done with the nucleus, then you can actually start drawing your electron shells. And you're going to draw the number of electrons for that element in the shells around the nucleus. And I will show you what that looks like. When you are filling your shells, your electron shells, the first shell can only hold up to 2 electrons, and every shell after that holds up to 8 electrons. These are maximums, okay? So this is a max, this is a max. You can't have more than 2 electrons on the first shell and more than 8 electrons on any shell after that. We spread the electrons out around the 4 sides of the orbital shell before partnering, and what that means is if you're drawing your shell and you have 2 electrons in your first shell, and you can have a maximum of 8 electrons in your second shell. You're going to do each side first. Top, side, bottom, side, and then you're going to start doing a second one. Top, side, bottom, side. So fill in all your spots first and then double up. You can think about it as north, east, south, west, okay? Let's do some practice. So we are going to draw a Bohr Rutherford diagram for lithium. So before we even start, let's figure out the number of protons, electrons, and neutrons that lithium has. So from the atomic number, we know that this has 3 protons. Because it has 3 protons, it automatically has 3 electrons. And from the atomic mass, we know if we round it, this is number 7. We're going to do 7 subtract 3 is going to give us 4. So this has 4 neutrons. Okay, so now that I have this information, I can start drawing my Bohr Rutherford diagram. Step 1, draw yourself a nucleus, so a small circle. Inside the nucleus, you're going to write the number of protons, so 3 plus P plus, and the number of neutrons, 4 and O. Then you're going to start drawing your electron shells. First shell can hold a maximum of 2, everything else after that is 8, okay? So I need to draw 3 electrons, which means I have to draw 2 on my first shell. Can I actually put a third one on my first shell? No, because the maximum that it can hold is only 2. So I draw 2 in, and that means I need a second shell. And your shells are going to look way nicer than mine. Actually, I should make this a little nicer. Let's try and make it a little nicer. Okay, and on my second shell, I'm going to draw one last electron. So remember, if I count all my electrons, I should have the 3 that I need. 2 on the first shell, the 3rd on the second shell. Note that I didn't draw any electrons around my nucleus. Draw the nucleus on its own first, make it its own separate circle, and then start drawing your electron shells around it, okay? So 2 electrons in the first, the 3rd electron has to go in the second shell, okay? So for a total of 3 electrons. Let's try another one. Okay, so this time we're going to draw the Bohr Rutherford diagram for fluorine. From the atomic number, I see that fluorine has 9 electrons and 9 protons. And then the mass is going to be rounded to 19. 19 subtract 9 is going to give me 10. So there are 10 neutrons. So now I'm ready to draw. Let me draw in a different color this time. I'm going to do my nucleus. Oh, that's hard to see. Let's choose maybe yellow. my nucleus. Inside my nucleus are my protons, 9 protons, and my neutrons, 10 neutrons. Then I'm going to start drawing my electron shells. My first shell gets a maximum of 2 electrons. And notice how I do north and south for these electrons. I never put them beside each other. I need a total of 9 electrons. If 2 go on my first shell, then that means I still need 7. Now, you know from the electron arrangement that 2 fit in the first shell, and then 8 can fit in all the other ones. So if I still need 7, I can put 7 on my second shell. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I fill each side up first, and then I start doubling up. 5, 6, 7. So if I were to count all my electrons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I have the 9 electrons that I need. This is complete. Okay, this is a Bohr Rutherford diagram for sodium. So again, 11 protons, 11 electrons. That comes from the atomic number. The mass is 23. Subtract 11 is going to give you 12. So 12 neutrons. I'm going to start off by drawing my nucleus. Inside my nucleus I have 11 protons and I have 12 neutrons. My first shell I'm going to draw 2 electrons. My second shell, I'm going to draw how many? Well, I need 11 electrons in total. 2 of them I've already drawn, so 11 minus 2 is 9. I know that these shells can now only carry 8, so I'm going to draw the 8 that they can fill. 6, 7, 8. That's 10 altogether, 8 on my second shell too, and so that means my last shell needs how many? Well, I hope you answered 1. I'll put it right there. Okay, so I have a grand total of 11 electrons on my orbital shells. Okay, let's try our last example, chlorine. So 17 protons, 17 electrons. This is 35, subtract 17, which is going to give you 18. So 18 neutrons. Now, inside my nucleus, I'm going to write 17 protons, and I'm going to write 18 neutrons. It's really important that you put the protons and neutrons in. I will not mark it correct if it's not there. Okay, 2 electrons on my first shell, 8 electrons on my second. Notice I'm filling each side up first before I start doubling up. Your electrons are drawn as filled in circles. So that's 10 altogether, but I need 17, so I need another 7 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the Bohr Rutherford diagram for chlorine. Okay, your homework is to draw 7 more elements between atomic numbers 1 and 20. It can be any 7. And you're going to draw those Bohr Rutherford diagrams for me, okay? Plus the worksheet that I post to the Google Classroom. If you have any questions, email me.